The Opera game. This is one of Paul Morphy's most famous games. It's incredible. He's absolutely dominant here, and you learn a lot from this position, so I'd stay tuned. Well, in this game, really, Morphy is trying to get out as fast as possible, and when you're trying to end the game quickly, you go with e4, which, as Bobby Fischer says, is best by test, and not d4. d4 is more for a structural approach. And in this position, Morphy goes for e5. And as you can see, there's an immediate battle for the center of the board, but this completely gets broken open almost right away. So knight f3, basically, he's attacking this pawn, and Philidors Defense is implored here, basically looking to defend the pawn on e5. The big negative here is that the bishop is blocked, and he can't get out. But Morphy doesn't even care about any of that. He's not trying to play a boring structural positional game. He's instead going to push d4, knowing that he's going to release this bishop, but also opening up his pieces as well. So the light square bishop is out, the dark square bishop's out. He's ready to attack. And our opponent here, he chooses to play bishop g4. Our opponent's looking to pin the knight to the queen. And this is fine with us. We're just going to go ahead and take on e5, and after pawn takes back, the queen can just take the queen, but bishop takes on f3. And you do have two options here. You can take with the g2 pawn, or you can take with the queen on d1. But in this case, it's much better to take with the queen on f3. And after pawn takes, you immediately have this beautiful bishop to c4. And I know a lot of times going for scholar's mate isn't a very high level idea, but in this case, it works quite well, because after you defend scholar's mate with knight to f6, we have queen to b3, and now we're attacking f7, and we're also attacking b7. Now, Morphy's opponent finds an extremely fascinating move here, and it's queen to e7. So first off, the main defense, I should say, is that he's defending f7, but also after queen to b7, it looks as though this rook is lost, but we have queen to b4, battering ram connected to the bishop, and the queen has to take back here, comes with check. And listen, it's the best move, Morphy's winning, but that's not what Morphy's looking to do. So instead, trying to avoid this trade on b4, he plays knight to c3. And as you can see, Morphy's in solid shape here. His development is a bit better than Black's development. Black was really hoping Morphy would take on b7, but go off into some sort of endgame, and then maybe Morphy would win in 40 moves. But Morphy was trying to put him away quickly. And so in this position, c6 is played, looking for this b5 push, which would be very scary. But Morphy isn't going to flinch, and you'll see why in a second. So bishop g5, pinning the knight to the queen, and immediately b5 is played. So the idea behind b5 is getting the bishop off of this diagonal, because this diagonal is scary, and the queen is the only piece really defending f7. But this is where Morphy's genius truly shows. Knight b5, brilliant. Pawn takes back, bishop takes, and it's a check. And many people would stray away from this type of position because the knight naturally develops into d7, but the long castle adds a double attack on the knight. The rook can come to d8, but this position is still very scary. Notice that even though Morphy is down a point of material, he sacked the knight for 2 pawns, the engine is saying +9 for Morphy. And if you can find the second brilliant move in this game, it's a very tough one to find, but it makes sense thematically with what's happened so far. Rook takes on d7. And now, if knight takes back, notice that in this way, the bishop wins the queen. And this knight's still pinned, bishop takes, and now the rook's coming over anyway, the queen's coming into the action. This is going to be very bad. So, you actually don't have the luxury of taking back the knight. Obviously, the queen can't take back because then bishop takes. So, no choice in this position. Rook to d7. But this comes with a hefty cost. The rook is pinned to the king, and now, as per rook replacement theory, rook to d1, and there's a double attack on the rook. And notice that while it does appear there are 3 defenders, the king, the queen, the knight, the queen is actually pinned to the knight. So in this way, if we were to play rook takes d7, the queen would be lost no matter what. That's why queen to e6 is played, with the idea of trading off queens. And yeah, you're gonna end up losing material in the long run, but you're surviving. Morphy takes no prisoners. Bishop d7, forking the king and the queen. There is no choice here. You have to take the bishop. If the queen takes bishop, rook takes, and the queen's lost. So knight takes. And to the untrained eye, this position is completely winning for black. At the end of the day, you have the extra minor piece. Sure, Morphy has more pawns, but what's the worst that can happen? Well, there's a third brilliant move in this game. Queen to b8. And notice, the king has nowhere to go because of this bishop that has handily been on g5 since the 7th move of the game. The queen is blocking off the 8th rank. And the only way to avoid maiden 1 is with maiden 2. Knight takes queen, and then rook d8, checkmate. And this is over. The bishop is protecting the rook. The king has only 2 squares. d7 blocked, e7 blocked, and there's no taking this rook, which is defended by the bishop.